America, Saudi Arabia, arms sales. The Trump administration has opened the door for weapons to be sold to Saudi Arabia, bypassing Congress and raising serious concerns about the Saudis using American technology to fight its enemies. RT correspondent John Huddy is live with more on the story and the concerns about U.S. weapons being used in Saudi-led wars. John?
Yeah, well, Manila, last month, the Trump administration approved the emergency authorization of $8 billion in arms sales to Saudi Arabia, along with Jordan and the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, to, according to the Trump administration, quote, deter Iranian aggression and build partner self-defense capacity. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on March 24th released a statement, in part reading that, quote, these sales will support our allies, enhance Middle East stability, and help these nations to deter and defend themselves from the Islamic Republic of Iran. But, you know, there are serious concerns that this emergency authorization could set really a precedent by allowing the Trump administration to essentially bypass Congress and sell U.S.-made weapons and weapon systems to Saudi Arabia. And not only that, Manila, but to allow the Saudis to basically copy U.S. technology and, as you mentioned in the intro, produce their own types of weapons. Further, that this emergency authorization will, according to a New York Times report recently that came out, allow the massive defense contractor Raytheon to essentially team up with the Saudis and build and assemble its weapon systems and bomb parts in Saudi Arabia. So that said, a bipartisan group of senators, including Lindsey Graham, Rand Paul, and Robert Menendez, said this week that they would try to block this deal by passing almost 24 resolutions, basically rebuking the Trump administration's emergency authorization and sales of weapons to the Saudis. And by the way, that $8 billion is just a fraction of the amount of U.S. arms sales to the Saudis. Last year, President Trump approved a 10-year package worth over $300 billion. Now, a Raytheon spokesman defended this recent agreement, however, telling the New York Times that, quote, industrial participation by local partners has been an element of international sales of military equipment for decades. These activities and related technologies are governed by the Arms Export Control Act, controlled by the International Traffic in Arms Regulations, and conform to all licensing rules and restrictions of the United States government. That said, Saudi Arabia is among the largest buyers of U.S. weapons and weapons systems. As I mentioned, that more than $300 billion package last year, and that alone has raised major concerns about these weapons being used against Saudi enemies and in Saudi conflicts. Back in August of last year, for instance, reports broke, you may remember this, that a 500-pound laser-guided bomb made by the U.S. company Lockheed Martin was used by the Saudis to attack Houthi rebels in Yemen, but ended up, as reported, killing dozens of innocent people, including dozens of children. Now, Saudi Arabia has been fighting, with U.S. support, really a protracted war against the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen for about going on 5 years, over 5 years now, a battle essentially seen really as a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Further, the Trump administration's weapon sales to Saudi Arabia really raises greater concerns about the kingdom moving towards trying to develop nuclear weapons. Saudi Arabia is moving ahead with plans to use nuclear technology for energy purposes now, with U.S. help and expertise. And Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman made it clear in an interview, as you may recall, with 60 Minutes, that the kingdom will develop nuclear weapons if Iran does.
Saudi Arabia does not want to acquire any nuclear bomb. But without a doubt, if Iran developed a nuclear bomb, we will follow suit as soon as possible.
And that said, Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia is demanding an investigation into the Trump administration's transfer of basically nuclear power expertise and know-how to Saudi Arabia, saying that the administration has been doing it even after the Saudi-orchestrated murder that we've reported on extensively of journalist Jamal Khashoggi that made headlines, of course, worldwide, garnering international condemnation.
The Trump administration has broken this precedent. They kept it secret. We found out in March that they had done a number of transfers to Saudi Arabia. It turns out that right after Khashoggi was murdered by the Saudis, and they were lying about it, the administration said, fine, we'll pass nuclear technology on to you.
Now, the House Foreign Affairs Committee has scheduled a hearing next week to question R. Clark Cooper. He is the Assistant Secretary of State for Political and Military Affairs, whose department licenses arms exports. So, of course, Manila, we will be following what comes out of that and this story altogether very closely. Manila, back to you.
Thanks for that report. RT's John Huddy, thank you.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.